8th position as we make our way now towards the start-finish line. The guys are getting ready. The lights are about to go out. They'll be going as soon as they hit that line. And off they go. The Ferrari in the background, they're chasing down, but the first place man is Patterson. Kieran Patterson slots into first place. He takes the left-hand lane. The Venagebear Mercedes having a look around the outside there. What is going to happen in the first corner? We see some dust in the background as we go on board here, just behind the Mercedes-Benz with the Porsche. No incident so far into the first turn, and the Pro-Am guys going through turn 1. I'm looking back there. The Pro-Am guys going through turn 1 without incident. Unbelievable.
The drivers will go on a track walk. They'll cycle it. They'll walk it together as a team. And they sit and talk about, can we take this curb here, or should we avoid this curb because of the rumble strip, or whatever it might be. But it's also to find places like that, like those brake markers. And I think it is a little bit more difficult in the simulation. So, look, it's a long way to go, but it doesn't seem like the Audi's having outbraking himself again. This is what I said you will see a lot of. So you've got to go through these little makeshift chicanes. So he's gone straight through the one. Now what's critical is where does he feed back in? Because actually, if you go through there quick enough, you'll come out ahead. But you then got to be very patient in how you bring it back. And I think if you get too aggressive bringing it back, I think that's what the problem might have been with the Audis last week at Paul Ricard through turn 10, is they let it run wide, and instead of just letting it go and then slowly bringing it back, they were trying to force the car back and making it very unstable. And that's why we're seeing cars spinning through Lesmo 1 and 2, because they're patient corners, these. There's another one there. You've got the replay in the background. You see, so it's actually contact. So that was...
No.
That was exactly it. So you saw him going through, losing it through Lesmo 2, getting a bit wide, coming on the power, trying to bring the car back and losing the back end. They're very, very tricky corners. It looks like Jason Gray, after his accidents, also probably pulled into the bits to see if he's got to get that fixed. Contact through there. Oh, my word.
Oh, my word. More contact there. As Jason Van Dooyen touches the Audi, they spin, going into Ascari there. And the overtaking opportunity is possible. Junior McCall falling back on the straight. Vanna having outbraked himself. This is a problem. Junior McCall now on the inside has the run up towards the next S. Junior McCall takes the position, and Venagebear slides back to third.
Wow.
As we go on board now, and
I don't know where to look.
There was contact there, but between the Porsche and that Audi across the track, they pop. And with absolutely nowhere to go, so many drivers further back just colliding with them. And these curves, like we were saying earlier on, the drivers are going into this race. There we go. Another one. Takes the outside curves, gets contact. That is Danny Miller there with Venagebear. And Venagebear, the car that has been said to be able to handle those curves, has made contact and then taking out Miller as well. What a pity. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this.
And that is how you start to now calculate as a driver, and that puts massive pressure on you. So that's great. The Lambo getting out the way, letting Ricard through, so that's perfect.
And Astra A10 headsets. Entrants must be over 13 years old and based in South Africa. And they can head over to the Pro Series Facebook page if the guys want to enter that, or any of the Pro Series socials. Oh, we've got some incidents happening on the circuit here. The two Audis next to each other. One of the Audis seems to have made a mistake there.
You know what, we'll come back to that prize, but I mean, it was also mentioning Dierwold Swanepoel in the top 10, and we know Murphy well. He's got good pace.
Audi now down in 12th position.
You know, he lost. I mean, since we picked up, we mentioned him. There's a replay for Junior. Whoa, that nearly ended in tears. So luckily he caught that big impact into that wall. That was through Lesmo 1 by the looks of things. So
there's some damage on the front of that Audi. Dierwold cuts in and gets taken out there. But that seemed like a bit of an aggressive turn in there from Dierwold. But when it comes to assessing these incidents, I like to leave it to you and Tasman.
No, dude, come on. Jono, let's have a look. Can we look at this one? But he's got 6 seconds to play with. So refocus, reboot, and get back into the zone.
And we cut to a replay here, and this is the incident into the Parabolica. We're on board now with the lead Audi, and he's running a bit of a tight line there. They just touch.
No, Ritz is taking a curb there as well. He's actually
it looks like
curb on the inside. Yeah, but I mean, he shouldn't be there.
By Nico Roots in the Rogue Racing Audi, which puts him in the top 10. The second Audi definitely has got a problem, slowing down quite a bit, some damage there potentially, as Walker now also takes a position. Walker tries to get another position. The Audi turns in, they touch. A couple of clanking of cars happening there. Nothing serious though. They all make it through unscathed, but that was an interesting couple of corners there for sure.
Something must have happened to Murphy in the Parabolica, because he had a good gap, and as we cut to the Parabolica, he had no drive coming out of there. So I don't know if he lost it going into the Parabolica with a big oversteer moment and recovered it, but literally he looked like he was going backwards down the straight. Yeah. But late braking by Walker in the Lexus.
In the direction of the finish line.
Great line.
I'm sure he is shaking his fist in the air. Patterson is our Pro-Am winner in the Porsche. Kieran Patterson takes first place in the Porsche. Flag to flag for him pretty much. Richard Van Coller in second place. Junior McCall also making his way down the straight in the ATK Academy car there. Your third place man. What a race. Pro-Am hasn't disappointed once again. The top three guys driving a fantastic race, and the guys at the back having a fantastic dice. Unbelievable stuff.
Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me in. Telling you now this payback. Ask them now what's changing. I've been going to the top and I got what they not, so I know that they hate that. All these lanes in the zone now. All these lanes gonna tell you what I did and they twist and they bust till I fall out. But I know that, so I keep what I'm doing cause I own that. And I stay in the lab and I kill everything, but I don't ever move from my phone. So I'm finally back in my home. I'm working, I start off this one. Have me a drum. Dance my phone, now just leave it there. All in, can't beat me up cause I'm back in my zone now.
Having a great start, an almost banging wheel.
Cause I'm back in my zone now.
Don't get greedy now, mate. Let's get settled down.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in Germany for round 6 of the ATK Pro Series, and as always, we are partnered by Kyalami 9 Hour Motorsport South Africa, and our sponsors this week, AMD, Elgato, and Corsair, keeping us comfy in these racing chairs. Now, today is a very special day because this is our first wet race for the season, and it's happening at the Nürburgring. So far, all signs point to lots and lots of rainfall on the track. Now the schedule looks like this. The first race will be the Pro-Am race, which should be starting shortly. We'll be jumping to that qualifying shortly. After that, we'll jump straight into the Pro race, which will be at 5 o'clock. We've got a couple of extra drivers in each class, so expect fields of over 30 drivers. It is going to be mental into that first corner. Yesterday's drivers raced to qualify to 2 different divisions, and although the conditions were different then, it's going to be interesting to see how those drivers manage to migrate into these very tricky rainy conditions. I, for one, can tell you it's going to be tough and hard out there for these drivers. Well, some of the guys that are tough and are hardened motorsport enthusiasts are with me today in our virtual commentary booth. We got Marius Roberts back from Johannesburg. You just did a trip to Joburg, Marius. How are you doing today?
I'm actually in Joburg at the moment, and it's flipping cold. But it's not wet like it is in Germany. But can I tell you, thank goodness for whoever hit the setting on the rain, because I think these guys have got themselves very, very comfortable and complacent in dry setups. We warned them beginning of the season this could happen, but I think, after 5 rounds of sunshine, they thought, maybe we were kidding. This is going to be a real challenge and a real test, and it's a technical circuit. It's going to require serious commitment, but I think Jonathan Bence is going to be very, very busy, and our Monday incident report is going to be chock-a-block, because turn 1 at this track is a nightmare in the dry. I don't want to imagine with 33 guys barreling into turn 1 in the wet, Jonathan.
I'm hoping that these weather conditions actually cause the drivers to drive a little differently today. Not that they haven't been doing a great job lately, but I think that driving in the wet puts you a bit more in like a tense situation. You driving a bit more carefully. Yeah, mistakes probably happen more in the wet, but I'm hoping that the drivers are just that much more cautious, especially into turn 1.
Well, look, I mean, that advice is fantastic for, people that are watching at home, and when they're driving on the public roads, that is what you want, is to be cautious. But this is a race, and you've got to find that pace. And, we were chatting before this commentary that the challenge in these conditions, I mean, you're in Germany, we've got Michael Schumacher name on a corner here. These conditions that set him up as one of the best drivers in the world is tricky conditions like that, where you're not looking for the normal racing line, but you're looking for grip levels that are on parts of the track that you wouldn't normally drive. And I think that's the interesting thing. We saw a lot of guys during free practice were making the most of that time to obviously just try and figure out maybe different ways through corners. So it's an interesting setup.
Well, on the screen right now, these are some of the guys that tried to figure their way out around the circuit and made it into our Pro-Am class, which is going to be the first of today's races and the first of today's qualifying. The times are a little bit further spread than we used to, but because of these tricky conditions, the guys have been struggling with setup, they've been struggling with visibility, they've been struggling just to get the hang of how their cars currently drive. And as you said, Marius, they're struggling with the track too.
Yeah, it's just, I think, we know a lot of the guys are paired up and they're working in teams, especially when we get to the pros. And just like in real racing conditions, that's why they're usually two cars in a team. So the drivers can concept. A lot of them in our series are doing exactly that. So this is where it becomes tricky, because I think they've got their setups pretty dialed in for the dry conditions, but I think a lot of them might just go to the default wet setting, because apparently, and this one I'm learning every day with this simulation, is that they can look 30 minutes ahead, which for a guy sitting on the pit lane as a team principal, he'd be able to see a lot further on that weather satellite. This is only giving them 30 minutes, but it looks like it's going to be a wet race essentially, certainly for the Pro-Am guys. So you've got to pick a setup and stick with it. But what's interesting too, and Jonathan, you can confirm this, I mean, the guys would allow, normally it's a 50-minute sprint race, but I mean, should track conditions dry, the guys could come in and change tires.
Yeah, absolutely. They have every opportunity to do that. In racing, you definitely need to always make sure that you're on the correct tire. Running too long on the incorrect tire, and you're going to lose massive amounts of time. I mean, 20 minutes on the wrong set of tire, you're going to lose 20 seconds on track easy.
Oh, unbelievable stuff. That is true. In damp conditions, these tires take a pounding. And we're going to have to wait and see what the drivers choose and what their strategy is. Now, we're going to move on to the standings now to see what the guys and the points of these gentlemen looks like at the moment. Right on top of the podium, we've got the man that's the fastest in the wet now by quite some margin today. And I was hoping that once again the Porsches might be at a disadvantage in the rain, but Zahir Essa has proved me wrong once again with his sheer pace and will to win. 220 points puts him at the top spot, and behind him, Marius, we've got a string of Porsches followed by Steyn in number 6 there in the Ferrari.
Yeah, the cool thing, we've mentioned this a few times over our previous rounds, is that there's not a huge difference between first and second place in terms of the points that you score. So even though Zahir has won, 4 out of 5 rounds, he's 11 points ahead of Bashir. So, things are still wide open, and that's why at the halfway stage in the series, this is critical that we have a wet race like this, because it literally does throw the cat amongst the pigeons. I think very easily the guys that we've seen at the top might not very well be there. And again, we mentioned the setup in the wet. the guys, you look at them in Formula One as a prime example, in the wet, that setup is out the window. So the advantage that guys have is less noticeable in these conditions. It evens the field out. So I'm expecting to see things mixed up, which is great for the series because it really can turn things up on the overall leaderboard.
Yeah, it absolutely can. And because of these wet conditions, we were talking about turn 1 early on. The corner turns in on itself. It's totally possible to get taken out there. It's possible to run wide there. Once you're off the track and you've got terminal damage, you end up in 20th, 30th position. All those points are off the table. So that gives guys like Bashir in second position the ability to leapfrog the leader Essa. So this is really one way of mixing things up. And we're getting some mixed feedback from some of the drivers. Some of them are happy about this. Some of the guys see this as the ultimate equalizer, which the rain is always hailed by some of the great drivers. And some of the guys are a bit upset because they were hoping for another dry race.
No, but at the end of the day, I mean, we've mentioned this so many flipping times now. This is about... It's simulation. It's not a game, and it's recreating what is going to happen in a real race series. So we've got 12 rounds. It's not going to be perfect test conditions every single race weekend. That's the reality. And this is why I think it's good that we see things like this, because it does mix it up. And you at the end of the day, with ATK Pro Series, we're looking to crown South Africa's fastest simulator driver. So you've got to be able to be good in all conditions, changing conditions, dry conditions, racing from behind. You've got to be consistent. And that is why we've got a day like today from a track perspective. But I know, Jonathan, you were saying to us, I know we've got to Monza. We know Monza also turn 1. You lay down the law in the driver's briefing. We've had driver's briefing for ProAM already. You've done the same for turn 1 because it is flipping tricky in the dry because there's a little kink to the right just before, basically at the brake point, and then it dips down, and then you can't go too tight because there's curbing there and your car bottoms out. It's a very tricky corner, but you can push wide. There's a safety net on that far side. What have you said to the drivers?
I've told the drivers that they need to be as aware as previously for the first turn. Any incidents that are caused will earn them an immediate drive through, so we will be watching very carefully in turn 1 there. It is, as wide as that first turn is, it's like you say, with that apex on the corner, it's very tight, and that little kink catches the guys up because they run straight and then suddenly it kinks to the right and they've got cars next to them, and it is a big concern at this track as much as it is at Monza. So the guys have been warned, take it easy. It is rainy conditions as well. So, Here's a question for you guys who've spent a lot more time, playing the game in this environment. In wet conditions, the biggest challenge obviously is visibility, from a spray perspective. Now, what is cool and something that you can't do in the real racing environment is you can't go and pull an aerial view. I wonder, it was my suggestion when I saw guys in practice, it was my suggestion whether I wonder if a lot of the guys won't change their setting from in-car view to above, because especially when you come to turn 1, when you might have qualified in 15th place, you've got 14 cars up ahead of you, so much spray, so easy to miss the brake marker and clatter into those guys, and you've got a multiple car pileup. So I wonder if a lot of guys won't do it from a visibility perspective, but also to be able to see what the rear of the car is doing, because ATK has given me a little setup, and we've started trying to play a bit, and I still do find that is not very realistic, is dealing with the back end of the car coming out. You're not able to catch it a normal way because you can't feel it because your rig is bolted to the ground. So I wonder if a lot of guys might not go with that as an option.
I wonder too. I think it's going to be a big risk to try it first time out today. But the smart money would be on someone going, you know what? I've been practicing this all week and I'm going to try it for the first 2 or 3 laps. Once I get clear in, I can see in front of me, because I tell you what, the first 2 or 3 laps is going to be an absolute nightmare for these guys because visibility is going to be shocking. Well, we're going to come back after the break with qualifying. Stay tuned, folks, because you are not going to want to miss round number 6 at the Nürburgring.
fast.
Here we go in the rain. We are on board with Clinton Riddell in the Porsche over there. And just look at that as he comes through the sweep now. He's on his way into the final S's now. This is one of the trickiest corners here on the circuit. It pays to go 3 or fast, but it's so risky. As you can see the car wiggling and spinning around. That, of course, is the White Rabbit Gaming car. The car's running the White Rabbit Gaming livery on there, thanks to the guys in the back office. Jonathan, the guys making sure we got these custom liveries on the car. Just looking at this gets me excited because we've got ourselves a race, people.
Yeah, listen, these are conditions when you wake up as a racing driver in the morning, you go, oh, the butterflies that you normally have are just smashing into each other because you just don't know what you're going to get. But this is the tricky thing. I mean, what's interesting now, they've had a long practice session and the conditions were exactly the same. So at least coming to qualifying now, it wasn't like there was a sudden change between practice into quality. So the guys should know what to expect. They know where the grip levels are. They also know where the pedals are. This track's got a lot of dips and hollows, so very much like Kyalami, you're going to find some standing water in some places. So it's about adjusting to your line and also changing maybe where you get on the brakes. But Jonathan, you raised a 50 good point earlier in terms of the setup from a wet perspective. Like a lot of the guys might go with default, but it's also how they look at their brakes and what type of brakes they're going to go with. Things that maybe don't have as much bite that you want in the drive.
Yeah, we have 4 options in brakes. We got 1 through 4, and it's different compounds of brake pad and disc. With 1 being your strongest race disc, that'll last about, I think, something like 3 hours in a race. And then you got your disc set 2, which will last, I think, a 6-hour race, and then disc set 3, which can last like 12 hours, something. And then disc set 4, which is like a qualifying compound that'll really bitey with not a lot of feel. And obviously the guys don't want to touch 4 for today. They want to sit on maybe disc pad 2 or 3. I would personally choose 2 for today.
Well, there's so many different combinations of things. You're talking about the disc pads.
Yeah.
There's also the ECUs that the guys can change.
That's right. You got dry maps, you got wet maps, and that's obviously changing the configuration of how much fuel is used, how much how linear your throttle response is. So for today, you want to choose a wet map that'll still give you good like straight line speed, but that is maybe a bit less aggressive on the uptake of the throttle. So as soon as you push the throttle down, it's maybe lagging just a bit behind what your foot is doing, so that the more how do I say it? The less aggressive your throttle map is, the less you're going to have to run heavier traction control.
You're looking for progressive here, Jonathan. I mean, that's the setup. Like the way you treat the throttle and the brakes is progressive as opposed to jumping on it. And I mean, in the drive, that's their setup. They're jumping on the brakes, and they're probably doing the same when they're getting on the power. Whereas now you really do need to be feathering the throttle, so that setting will obviously do that for them. But the traction control thing is an interesting one because, for me in this, I rather want to feel where the traction is naturally as opposed to having the electronic system getting in the way of that. I think once you can feel that, but again, this is a challenge because I can feel that in the seat of my pants when I'm driving a car.
Yeah.
I can't do that in a simulator, and that for me is what makes this really tricky.
That's the big thing about driving in the rain, is that once that rear goes, you're not going to be able to catch it. So you do need to have pushed the limits in your practices, leading up to the race, that you know where that limit is, that your settings are all on point, so that you don't have those surprise rear end moments.
Yeah, the traction control on these cars have various settings, 11 different settings on some of them, and some of them have 2 different TCs, each with 11 different settings on the Porsche, for example. And the guys have been playing around with those settings all the time. Jonathan, you mentioned that the ideal is to have the car set up so the TC doesn't kick in as much because that really holds the car back. But the balance here is so fine because the guys are, after all, we're racing here today. As Lutz goes on the pole position with a 2:04.7. What a fantastic time from him. That is a pro level time there. And Lutz now starting to find the grip here in the wet conditions.
Yeah, we kind of before, I remember our wrap up after Monza, we were trying to predict and getting understanding from Jonathan in terms of balance of performance, what car's going to work well. And we said, yeah, the Porsches will be strong here and so will the Audis. But I mean, balance of performance is literally tossed out the window now when you've got conditions like this. And that's what I love. Because now it really is more a showcase of the driver and his ability coming to the fore. And you think, like, you look back at Formula One, a lot of the drivers have made names for themselves were driving in no-name teams that were like 17th and 18th position in Formula One, and they made their name for themselves in the wet, but they ended up getting win or finishing third. And that's happening with that. A lot of our drivers at the top, we haven't known before. But, yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good battle today.
Kunos Strauss is one of those guys. We've seen him here in their feature. He was just running in a pole position a second ago. He's 1.6 seconds down. And for Strauss, I think the McLaren seems to be good in the rain so far. So let's watch out for him as he makes his way through the Schumacher Estes over there.
Well, it is a British car, so I mean, this is its default setting, the rain. I think in the UK, if they get a rain of sunshine, everyone's taking the day off work. So this car should be very comfortable in the wet. But yeah, listen, I mean, this corner here particularly, like, you don't want to turn right, you just want to go left and go and join onto the main Deutschland circuit. That would be real fun. And I mean, imagine driving that.
Oh my goodness. The green hell.
Yeah, it's a special track, which I really do. I love the layout. And it's also old school because there is no runoff. Again, you're onto the grass and then you're getting penalized big time. So it's a proper driver circuit. One of my favorite, actually.
Well, you're not the only one that seems to think so. A lot of the Formula One drivers agree with you on that. And of course, they had the inaugural race here in 192.3 Sport Lines many years ago, where all the Formula, I don't even remember, Marius, where all the Formula One drivers battled each other in exactly the same cars in conditions quite similar to this, if I remember correctly. And Ayrton Senna was the driver, a young Ayrton Senna was the driver that bubbled to the top there, beating guys like Lauda and Scheckter to the finish line in the end.
Well, that's what we were saying. It's conditions like this where the real racing drivers make a name for themselves. So, yeah, we've already got a different lineup and look and feel to the top of the ProAM standings with 11 minutes to go in qualifying. So very interesting to see how it's going to end up. I'm interested in this guy in 16, Carl Slater. When I saw K Slater, I thought, K Slater, the surface would love the wet conditions. The guy's going to feel like he's carving on his board. But, yeah, nice to see a couple of new names and also a couple of pros that didn't seed well and are now racing in Pro-Am. So that for me is always a fantastic dynamic with the ATK Pro Series, that you've got to make your presence felt on a Saturday to make sure you get seated for the right race.
Another guy that is kind of new to our screens there, Wayne Kershaw in the Lamborghini. And it's such a pity that the Lambos haven't been featuring that much because that car is just stunning to look at. And I hope that we see a bit more of a mix now as he gets out of the way there for one of the Audis. I hope we see a bit more of a mix of cars on the field. The car that has been in the mix lately is Richard van Coller, and our podium finisher from the previous round is now in the Bentley, making his way around, currently in second position. And the Bentley, aptly named, seems to be doing quite well around this wet circuit.
Yeah, it's pushing out a big weight for all the cars behind. I mean, this is a perfect guy to slipstream because, I mean, you're going to have clear visibility. Everyone gets behind, you're not going to be struggling. But no, I'd love to have actually spent. I did a couple of laps last week, and I drove the Porsche, I drove the Audi. I had actually a chance to drive the Bentley just to what the difference is in the setup of the cars. But I'm really keen to get spend some time in the Bentley because really, from a real racing perspective, it's a car that does so much better than you expect it to do. You look at those proportions, and no way it's going to be a race car, but it is so good to drive, so good on its tires. That's going to be a concern today, and I love how it's a proper highway brawler.
Oh yeah, it looks like a race car. Giant wings on the back, makes its way through the chicane, gets it very sideways, an armful of opposite lock there through the final chicane there, down into the last corner, now onto the main straight. And if we could go on board with Van Coller, that would be amazing to see, because at the moment, these guys are getting a face full of spray, trying to navigate through all the water to go on board with Van Coller now. You can see what it looks like. This is the bumper cam from inside the car. It actually looks way more difficult than a lot of the guys are using the in-car view to navigate their way around the circuit. As we have a look at the driver getting very busy inside the Bentley. There's a bit of opposite lock there again. Marius, you were saying.
No, Ernest, I mean, look at them going through that chicane up the top. It's like for me, obviously, normally happily take a bit of curve there, but I think in these conditions, you kind of want to stay away from that, and that's why he got himself into the big opposite block moment. And we mentioned a few points on the previous round, when the drivers arrive at the track, they're going to do their track walk or elevation changes, but it's conditions like this where they're going to look at what are the lines painted with? Can I use this curve? Because a number of painting using on that like Kyalami, where they actually are grippy in wet conditions, whereas normally in the old days, anything that was painted was slippery. But this circuit with its old layout, you don't have much curve that you can actually run over and use because it's heavily sloped. So that's going to unsettle the car, which is fine in drive, but you don't want a car to be changing off. See how like
Oh my goodness! The Bentley there in the background, that looked like who's that? That was Van Collen, looks like.
That was like Van Collen just running two wheels onto the green cement on the outside and losing grip. It's so difficult here. You've got to leave a bit of a little margin now. You can't really put your car where you normally would in the dry conditions. So it really messes with the driver's head. Like that's a bit of a Bentley's confidence. Going to make a question that next time you get to that.
That's true. A car that is very good in the wet is the Ferrari. We're on board with our second place, man, and I've spent a lot of time in this car. I actually managed to do a 204 in this car in the week. It is exceptionally good in the wet conditions, so balanced, so easy to drive. And we saw earlier on the guys are getting opposite block through some of the corners. When that happens in the Ferrari, it's very easy to control. So that gives you a little bit more confidence, it gives you the ability to push a little bit harder. And if you do touch the outside or do make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. So I think the Ferrari drivers are going to have quite the advantage going into this race, because this to me is definitely one of the easier cars to drive around the circuit.
And I think it will be interesting to see how the cars play out today, because I suspect the Audis are going to have somewhat of a wet advantage today. Could be interesting in the pro race, seeing the Audi up front there. I think the Porsches, I don't know, Ernest, if you've driven the Porsche in the wet, but I think it's a bit of a tricky wet car.
Look, I've driven similar times in the Porsche. It's very fast in the wet. The engine power is there, of course, the grip is there, all of those things. But the problem is, if you touch the curb with a Porsche, what I find happens is the wheel lifts off the ground. So one of the wheels lifts off the ground when you touch the curb. Oh, you got someone in the middle of the track there. One of the Audis parked in the middle of the track. That's another thing. That's what can happen in a wet race. You come around a corner and there's someone parked on the racing line. What do? There's no time to avoid. I mean, I'm changing topics here, but I'm just so excited. I love wet weather racing, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen. And I do think, as you say, Jonathan, the Audis might have an advantage as Ferrari gets it sideways and he spins out. Just as I say that, I think the Porsches are going to struggle as well.
But Ernest, what you were saying there, I mean, that's exactly what they need to dial back is, you don't want to be lifting wheels here, so you don't need to go with as firm a setup with your spring rates. You need to set the car up to actually be a bit more compliant in terms of how it rides the bump. So when you come on the power, if there's give in your chassis setup, it's going to be more forgiving. Whereas if you've got the thing firmly set up and you get on the power, any change in surface is going to be felt straight away. So I would definitely go with the softer setup, so you're not looking to lift the wheel like that. But it's quite cool. You were talking about it, we had an onboard shot of the outside of that green concrete, and you can see there on the outside, you can see the green, how slippery it looks with the puddle. It's like, oh my word, it's an ice skating rink. So that is something that you really want to avoid, whereas in the dry, you just have 2 wheels on there for sure, because if you didn't, you weren't quick enough.
Well, another massive factor in what they need to set up on their cars is they have to get their tire pressures right, because the wets are very, very, very finicky. They overheat for nothing. So even you see a bit of a racing line forming there. I mean, that's still very wet, but that has the potential to push that temperature up a bit and obviously raise the pressures at the same time. So getting their pressures right is going to be very key to that.
Exactly. We messed up with the pressures this week. Once again, out the S's over there, that was the NGK train there. And we messed it up with the pressures. The guys have to start their pressures about this time up. Because as you say, these are the calls where the guys actually fight. If they are too soft, they don't get on. They kind of might get softer. The guys are pushing up the PSI up 5 PSI on each tire, and tire management and the correct tire setup can make or break your race. And once that happens, you have to go quick to fix the problem. So these guys would have had to have done a lot of research this week, especially the front runners, with Roots now in first place and Jay Murphy in the other Audi in second position. So all Audi front row. And Jono, you might be onto something there with those Audis, mate.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I haven't been having much luck. I drive the Audi myself in championships, and in terms of dry weather, not my favorite car by all means, but in the wet weather, I think it's going to shine.
And it's quite interesting though, because I don't know how much. I mean, when did these guys know that the conditions were like this?
Well,
That's it, isn't it? I mean, they haven't had consistent weather settings on servers or anything. So there has been a lot of hype in the background about, oh no, are we getting a wet race? There's rumors were being spread around about a wet race, and the drivers have been excited and concerned, and they're panicky, and it's freaking awesome.
Because the tricky thing for me is with tire pressures. I mean, the way a slick responds and the pressure in the setup is totally different to a wet tire. So that's what they're also going to struggle with. You know, how do they know if they haven't got to spend time working with tire pressures? I understand the temperature is one thing, but how a wet tire warms up is very different to the slick. So it's going to be tough for them today.
It is. It really is.
Richard Van Coller makes it into second position, 0.4 of a second off. That's not his lucky day at the moment. He's got 2 minutes left to see if he can get that first place in qualifying. But somebody's lucky day is 19th position, Matt Kershaw, who's celebrating a birthday today. So to you, Mr. Kershaw, in the pits at the moment, Wynand, happy birthday as he enjoys the view from inside his Lamborghini at the moment.
Ernest, did you check? Sorry, you check you hit the top. It's Clip, Ernest, I think.
Yes,
Yeah, in the Aston Martin. So out of nowhere, we haven't seen, because I mean, you were talking about cars that are well balanced and easy to drive, and you mentioned the Ferrari, but we've said right from the start, the Aston's a very nice car to get your head around.
Very true.
He's come from nowhere and put it up in pole position with a minute to go. I think it's his.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. I can't believe that he's managed to do that. He's been off our radar for a while now in the purple Aston Martin over there, but 0.2 of a second up, and it's going to be difficult for anybody to pip him now with just 1 minute to go, as Zander Roots in second place and Van Collen now pushed out to third will have to try and do in the next 56 seconds or so.
Yeah, I think Etienne's got this thing licked. I mean, it says he's done it at the perfect time, and I wonder if there's any strategy involved in this. We haven't seen a lot of guys walking laps that kind of at their point wanted to spend as much time on track in qualifying to get their head around these conditions. But yeah, he's hit that perfect lap at the right time.
Unbelievable. Maybe so far he's looking good out there at the moment, and let's see, maybe he's up on that sector time as well. So far, with 30 seconds ago, nobody's put him yet as he makes his way down the back straight section towards the NGK chicanes. The first right-hander here is flat, but one mistake and you're going to run wide over there into the sand, and that's going to cause the spin as we saw earlier on. We look now at the sector times, and Clem has got the two fastest sectors, second and with Roots, a 4/4 of a second faster in the first sector. So now Clem making his way through. Qualifying is now over. They should have about a minute or so to circulate, and let's see, nobody's going to pip him off. Clem is, for the moment, your top qualifier with Roots in second place, Van Coller in third. As Manager Bear crosses the line, they come over the line in 8th position. Well, that's it from us for now for qualifying. We'll be right back after this for a very, very wet Nürburgring race. And we are back, and your eyes do not deceive you, folks. It is a very, very rainy Nürburgring at the moment, and I'm sure the drivers are nervously waiting on the start line. You see that car in pole position there. Oh, sorry, that's not pole position. That's one of the other Aston Martins. Of course, we've got an Aston Martin up front, but you saw the car drop down there. That is the guys resetting and getting their car off the air jacks. Once they do that, the tires then start cooling down, and they will then head into the corner with very cold tires in very, very wet conditions. Marius, any idea what you think is going to go through the minds of some of these guys heading into that first turn?
How can we get out of this situation? We should really be tucked up in bed, nice and the chaos on turn one. No, kidding. You know what? True racing drivers actually thrive and look forward to conditions like this because in the back of your mind, you know this is your ultimate test. You know, you can be the quickest guy on the drive, but you always know if you want to be respected as a driver, you're going to be doing it in conditions like this. So for me going into turn one, we mentioned it earlier, the spray is going to be a massive problem. So the only person who's going to be enjoying that is Etienne in pole position because he's going to have a clear run. But for everyone else, it's going to be a chaos going into that. Very easy to miss brake markers. We spoke about that little kink to the right just before as you come on the brakes. And then even though there's wide place to run off, that apex has a proper little dip in it, which unsettles the car. So I think we hope that the guys, I know Jonathan's really said to them, let's mess up here because it's going to be drive-throughs. Have a look at that view. I mean, that's him with a clear view. Imagine for the guys behind. So I think it's a 50-minute race. Just get through the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. The first corner, as you say, there are going to be drivers that are going to tuck it down the inside. And if you go too far on the inside, the car actually gets stuck, beaches on that curb, and you can get spun around sometimes 2 times or get jammed up in that corner. And that's going to cause an absolute pile-up. We don't want that. We are 33 seconds away from the session start. And then we've got ourselves a 50-minute race in what is absolutely treacherous conditions out there. The track surface isn't at maximum wetness, so it's not impossible to drive, but it certainly is going to be a test of skill and mettle for these drivers as we go on board with Sander Roots in the Audi. And as Jono was saying earlier on, the Audi is not a bad car, isn't that right, Jono?
Yeah, it's going to do well today. And if I look at my settings here, we're looking at 40% rain, 40% wetness on the track, 19 degrees air temperature. You know, usually the lower air temperatures equal faster lap times, but the track surface is not playing ball today.
Sure. Track surface most certainly isn't playing ball, and that's exactly what the drivers are saying as they curse Jonathan and his settings as they make their way into the first corner on the warm-up lap. And this is just for now to get the cars all warmed up, get those differentials warmed up, get those tires and brakes warmed up. Now, the tires and the brakes in these cars actually work in conjunction with each other. So the more heat goes to the brakes, the more heat that gets transferred to the tires. Now, these cars have aero ducts in the front and back. And those aero ducts then hold the heat or take cool air in. And as we were saying earlier, there are so many settings that these guys would have had to play with in order to get their car right. And some of these settings might work for 5, 10, 15 laps or 15, 20 minutes. But a 50-minute race throws in so many different variables. I cannot wait to see this game of motorsport chess unfold right before our eyes in a couple of minutes' time.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's something I always find fascinating. You always immediately see guys weaving to generate heat in their tires, but the best way to do it is actually with the brake pedal. And in these conditions, weaving is pointless. Now suddenly everyone's realizing, let's get on the brakes, accelerate, brake, accelerate. That's the best way. Weaving side to side ain't going to do much for generating tire today, but it's going to see what the drivers are realizing that the brakes are going to be critical. You know, put a strong build-up lap. You're going into turn one, which is heavy under brakes, so make sure you do have a pedal that's got fuel. And we spoke about those settings. The guys might have gone running with different discs and pads that are less aggressive, so it's also getting a feel for that. And this is going to be their first real lap in anger. In qualifying they're pushing the margin, but you always find the engine gets raised when the lights go out, so it's going to be critical that the guys have generated good temperature in those brakes.
I tell you, I've been playing this game with some of the Pro and Am guys in the last couple of days, and once, you can have whatever conversation you want before the race, but I can personally say that once the lights go green, sometimes those conversations go out the window. And I've fallen victim to that myself and taken a couple of guys out in the process, because you want to get through that first corner, you want to make up as many positions as you can, but safely so. And in these conditions, it is an absolute knife edge between getting 3 positions and total utter disaster. I've spoken to a lot of the drivers, and the main aim for especially the Pro-Am guys is just to circulate. Don't fall off the track, make it around the circuit. The dry line is appearing in the middle of the circuit, that's the safe line, and stay in the middle of the track, circulate, and try not to be the 1 or the 10 that spin out and have an incident.
Definitely a race of survival, this race.
A race of survival indeed, as the 2 cars go side by side now in preparation for their formation lap. They're going into the final corner now. This, of course, is turn 15. And the nerves and butterflies, as Marius was saying, are smashing into each other in these guys' stomachs now. We've got Etienne Kleb in the inside there, Zander Roots on the outside, number 2 position there for him, and Kolla in third, Leroux for Jay Murphy in 5th place, Van Rooyen in the first, Ferrari in 6th, which I think is going to be quite well. And more pop, they go, let's go green. Left-hand lane in the lead, so far we've got Roots in the lead. Is he going to cut across? We go on board now through all the space. Van Kolla has a look down the inside. He's going to have to watch out for that grass. Looks like there's the touch of the grass over there.
I saw that coming. I mean, Etienne obviously grumpy that he got drunk on the start. He completely outbrakes himself. You can see that coming, but Zander did a great job making sure that they nowhere near. And got a bad spot, but make it even worse than the first corner. But it looks like everyone's got.
Yeah, everyone's got through cleanly currently, and that's great for my notepad here.
I can't believe it. I cannot believe these guys got through cleanly. As Van Rooyen there has a look down the outside in the milk Ferrari over there, the pink one, you can't miss that. The rest of the field coming through rather nicely here, like well-behaved private school kids. They make their way down, line is slowly in a row down here. Unbelievable stuff. I can't believe these guys managed to make it through in one piece. And Van Kolla in the Bentley, Marius, your favorite car here, seems to be doing quite well. I'm keen to see how he does once the spray has settled a little bit and these guys start to get into it.
I'm actually really impressed with what we've seen from the start. We've often said what a tricky turn 1 is in good conditions. There's so much to go wrong. The drivers are doing a great job. Etienne, for me, must just take a deep breath, get back into the zone. As we see one of the Audis, looks like I think they outbraked themselves.
Yeah, Murphy that went off there. That was Murphy.
So outbraking himself. But I was just going to say, Etienne just needs to take a breath and get this lap out the way and slowly start finding his rhythm again, because you can very easily overdrive because you started in pole and now you're down in 4th, you know. So there's a long race ahead. Whereas in 3rd,
he's got a solid car underneath him today, so I think that he's definitely got a good package to do well. But that Audi up front there is just pulling a gap at the moment to the Bentley.
Well, Zander Roots, no slouch. And we've got a collision at the back. A Bentley and an Audi taking each other out there. That looked like Isherwood over there in the wall as they come out of the final turn onto the main straight. Isherwood seeming to have tangled with one of the Audis there. Our first accident here at the Nürburgring, and that is not good news. On lap 1, we've got our first incident. I'm not quite sure whose fault it was, as we now go on board with Manager Bay, who's come all the way from 10th position now into 7th place. Strauss in front of him in the McLaren. And the first of the Mercedes-Benz. And tell you what, the Mercedes also a car that's a handful around the circuit. I promise you, that traction control light on that Mercedes is flashing non-stop at the moment.
Well, that's no different for anybody that drives a Mercedes-Benz normally. On the road, they've got so much horsepower, but they really do struggle to put it down. So, yeah, no different.
Do you remember when the first Mercedes came out with 1,000 Newton meters of torque? I couldn't believe it.
Earnest. I mean, you know, these people that live on paper, it's, you know, yeah, I've got 1,000 Newton meters, yeah, but I mean, you can only realistically put on 500 because your tires are shredding, you know, and that for me is what's more important. I don't care what you got on paper, and that's where Porsche's always been so good. You know, they don't win on paper, but my goodness me, they put down what they say they can.
Indeed.
And that's what has always made them such formidable cars. But yeah, we know that Merck's a handful. I mean, I know we've got Jason Webb, our SA Drift champion, coming up in the pros later. We saw what he did at Paul Ricard, massive car control. So he might be enjoying conditions like this, because he's going to be looking through the side window more than the front. But, the guys have really, I'm impressed with racing. Sure, we've had that one little incident coming out of turn 15 on the start finish. Easy to get it wrong there because you come on the power and you've got to be so patient on when you come on the power there, because you can push quite wide and onto that curb, and then you are going to find the inside pit wall. So it'd be good to get a replay of that at some point just to see what's
I've taken a look at that incident. Unfortunately, it was the Audi coming out of the turn and the rear end stepped out, and unfortunately just collecting Isherwood in the Bentley.
Ouch, poor Isherwood as we go on board now with Nur Hendricks in the Ferrari. And as we said, the Ferraris will be doing well here on board down the main straight now. The guys are going to be looking out for that 150-meter board coming up on the left-hand side. That's an indication that the 100 board is coming. Just look at the spray. 100-meter board. The 150 board's been taken out now. Looks like it. And that's a little bit late on the brakes there. It goes up close to the Mercedes-Benz. And this is what I'm talking about as well. The track markers might get taken out in these conditions. And that changes the game as the Ferrari gets a bit of curve, then goes sideways. And there again, we see how easy the Ferrari is to slide. In any of the other cars, that might have been a terminal mistake. But in the Ferrari, the car just goes into a beautiful four-wheel drift. And it's, to me, one of the easier cars to drive on the circuit in these conditions.
It's an Etienne showing that great pace from qualifying now. Yeah, he didn't have a great first lap, but he's closed right up on the back of Rickard van Colle in the Bentley, looking super, super quick as well. So he's definitely got a good wet weather setup, and he's obviously a zone here as well. So good man to watch. And like we mentioned it, we're going to see a different list of drivers and manufacturers, and have a look at that mix. Bentley, Audi, two Astons, the Ferraris up there, Merc. It's not the Porsche affair. First Porsche is done in 10th place. When did we last have that?
Oh, this is beautiful to watch. I mean, we're seeing here's a look down the inside there. We're seeing the Bentley now being chased down hard by Etienne Kleb. That's a puddle over there that the guy's got to watch out for. Etienne Kleb really harassing the Bentley here. And I'd love to go on board with it. The Bentley gets sideways there onto the green stuff. Gets a little bit pressure there. This is not good. This is not good. They go side by side through the Warsteiner curb. And Etienne Kleb gets pushed wide there. But thankfully, no damage on either car. That was a little bit too close for comfort.
That was good racing though, because I think Etienne obviously had an opportunity, realizing that Rickard ran wide, but Rickard still got the inside for that corner, and two cars can't go through there, and realizing he's going to run onto the curb where he's going to have no grip. So he did very well just to back out of that. But he's got the pace and he's putting Rickard under pressure, and Rickard made that mistake. So that gives Etienne a lot of confidence, knowing, listen, the guy's cracking. If I put him under massive pressure, he's going to make mistakes. So he'll be back on the back of him, I reckon, by the end of the next lap.
It's certainly the case of putting pressure right now. We're speaking to some of the drivers this week. This is an opportunity to apply pressure and wait. To try and get the overtaking maneuver, force the overtaking maneuver here could lead to a catastrophe. So applying pressure, waiting for the mistake, such as this. We see Werner running wide there, and now Nur Hendricks really getting a close look as they go through the first section now, the Mercedes Arena, they call this. Will this work out for the Mercedes in front though, as we look in the replay there of, oh my goodness, more cars spinning out into each other, more collisions, the Milk Porsche getting out of the way there, just absolute chaos on one of those corners there.
Hey, that was quite a beautiful moment, because that was like synchronized driving. I thought we were watching car ballet, because one car shot and then everyone else is like they hit oil or something. But I think obviously everyone just outbraked themselves. I'm not too sure where that was on the track. It might have been into turn one actually. So I'm sure we're going to replay of that a little bit later. But you see how easy it is to just get on the brakes a little bit too late, and it's very hard to stop the car in these conditions. But Noah Hendricks, a guy we haven't spoken of in the last couple of rounds, he was there in the beginning of the season, so it's good to see him looking all racy again with support from Skitter and the other Ferrari right behind him. Yeah, look, when you get onto that green concrete, there is zero grip out there, so I think that going to give every driver a bit of a heart-in-mouth moment.
Now, with the Ferraris, as we said, they can take a little bit of that green stuff, but they cannot turn on the green stuff. What I found is the cars are able to go on there, but if you try and do any sort of steering input, it's a problem. And now Joubert under some real pressure now by both Ferraris as they go two abreast. And as you said, 2 into 1 does not go. And slotting in behind now is Skitter, getting pressure himself, or at least Nur Hendricks getting pressure himself from Skitter in the other Ferrari, now going through towards the final chicane here. This is going to be interesting. The 907 Ferrari of Nur Hendricks leading Skitter through the S's. Well done to Werner as Ferrari gets sideways again. Just look at that car moving and squirming there. Nur Hendricks now getting really starting to put a head down and gets past. Werner Joubert makes another mistake, and he's down 2 positions.
He's made a mistake under braking there, going in just a little bit too late in the brakes, running wide, and that is what happens. I mean, I think you've just got to be so consistent on hitting your brake markers here, because normally you can get away with a bit of a late brake because you've got dry track, and it's not gonna nail you. But I think any little mistake is amplified by a 30% type of thing, so you really do get punished. But he's back on the back, so. Hoping to get on the back of Skitter and get back in that battle for sixth place. This is good racing. 40 minutes to go, and I'm very impressed with the quality of the driving for Pro-Ams in really tricky conditions. I was worried. You remember the Pro-Am race we had at Paul Ricard 2 rounds ago? It was chaos, but they really have upped their game, showing some proper class in these conditions. And we can see Kleb has now got past Richard van Coller. We said that he was putting him under pressure earlier, remember? They tried to make that side-by-side through Weissteiner, and that didn't work. But now he's caught him, and he's got past him. Very good. Now in front of him is Underroots, and he's got a big target on his back.
Yeah, let the hunt begin. I did notice that Van Coller's car is set up to understeer quite a bit, and that might be a safe setup for him because the car is pushing the nose wide here a little bit in most of the corners. Look at how wide Kleber's running over there. That's not a place you really want to run wide over there, under braking on the slippery stuff. So he's got supreme confidence here, looks like it. Able to get the pace and the gap now 2.1 seconds. Both drivers will be watching that gap with eagle eyes as they go through the Advan corner over there on their way to the NGK chicane now, with Kleb leading Van Coller, chasing down Roots, who now has lost 0.3 of a second already in just 2 corners. This is a man on a mission. Etienne Kleb visor down, trying to see if he can get back that first position qualifying.
But it's interesting what you said. I mean, you worry about him running wide, but I mean, suddenly that might be the racing line. We see the guys going off the dry line that is kind of forming there to make sure they keep the wet tires cooled down, because they can heat up as the track starts drying. But that is, for me, always what's so critical, is finding where the grip is, because the grip is not going to be on the racing line always. So a lot of the time we might see, like there, he did run out wide, but that might be where the grip is. What I enjoyed seeing him going through the NGK chicane was that he was actually a lot more cautious going on the turn in, not taking curb there, rather get the car nicely lined up and being aggressive on the exit. And that seems to be working for him. A lot of guys seem to be taking quite a lot of curb going in, and that's going to compromise them on balancing the car on the exit.
Yeah, that curb, taking that curb in there is not a good idea. And there are 2 curves that you want to avoid, that being one of them. The second one being turn number 4, where there's a massive puddle that's starting to develop over there as we watch the Bentley understeer its way through the corner. Sean Skitter now down to 7th position, just behind Noor Hendricks. Noor Hendricks now with a slight lead. And Van Joubert having slid further down the field, losing 2 positions there on that final corner. And I'm telling you, these Ferraris, man, these guys can circulate this track without any issues, lap after lap. All they're going to do is make sure they keep it on the black stuff, although the black stuff is more grey at the moment.
Look, I mean, don't get confused. That pink Porsche up ahead is not for position. Remember, that was involved in that spin we saw earlier. So
that's Ian McKenzie over there in the milk Porsche,
Yeah, this should be a back marker, and McKenzie said, coming up to get past. So let's hope that he stays out of the way. So that's one thing you don't have to be worrying about at this stage, this early in the race. You're under a bit of pressure. Sean Skitter is chasing Noor Hendricks down. You don't want to be now worrying about, I've got a guy to get past, where's he going to put his car? Because as we saw, the guy makes a mistake and takes you out very easy in these tricky conditions.
Yeah, that Porsche, that pink car in front, it's actually Jason van Rooyen in the first of the Ferraris. So now for the first time, oh, look at that! The one Ferrari runs wide there, and that is not a place you want to be running wide. Touch the sand with the Ferrari there. I've lost it myself personally. And Jason van Rooyen now getting pressure from the 2 other Ferraris. And for the first time, we're seeing a Ferrari 3-way battle. This is proving to be quite exciting. Now these drivers are going to figure out which one of them is the quickest Ferrari in the Pro-Am division.
That was quite interesting. I don't know what happened there. I mean, Sean got great drive off of the top, and just going through that fast right section, Noor just seemed to maybe turn in a bit late, ran wide, and literally gifted that position to Sean. So he'll be happy about that. And yeah, thanks for picking that up, Ernest. I was seeing a pink Porsche, and it's actually a pink Ferrari. So Marius will wake up.
Oh, sorry to butt in here, but Roots has just spun out of the lead. If we can get a view on that.
Oh my goodness, that changes things as Etienne Kleb now is battling with Van Coller. Both of these guys probably realize now they are battling for the lead, and Etienne Kleb and Van Coller going at it hammer and tongs here. Van Coller having a look now down the inside making him know that he is there. Switches back to the other side, gets the car a little bit sideways. They're going now into what I think is the tight right-hander. Yes, this is the hairpin down at the bottom of the hill. Now they're going up towards the Schumacher S's. Not an overtaking opportunity here, but certainly Kleb getting a lot of pressure from Van Coller. And the question is, will he crack under said pressure? Look at them running a little bit wide here. This is, of course, on board now with Van Coller in second position. And
I'm just surprised at this because we saw how, I mean, literally, Etienne was like a homing missile. He had so much pace, and then he got past Richard, putting him under a bit of pressure. And now Richard's come back, so maybe Richard's using Etienne as a bit of a brake marker in terms of finding where the grip levels are, because he's really back in it. And you can see Zander leading is obviously, that spin didn't cost him too much, so he's in third with 35.
Well, I was speaking to some of the drivers in the week, and one of the things that was mentioned as the Bentley underseers through the S over there, one of the things that was mentioned is that in a wet race, it is possible to have a spin. You know, it's very possible to have a spin. But as we saw with Roots over there, you know, he's one of our more experienced guys, is that when you do spin, make sure not to hit it. I know that sounds obvious, but in a sim, when one spins, it's easy to get frustrated. It's easy to just throw the wheel or the controller down instead of trying to save the car. And I think that what we've seen here is that you can stay in the fight even after a spin, but the key is to recover and recover well.
Yeah, because I mean, here's the replay in the bottom of the screen now. We can see, is that in the Mercedes arena? It looks like the Mercedes arena,
Yeah, that's in the arena. Oh, and look at that.
Oh,
And
he's so lucky there.
He's lucky he didn't spin it all the way around. That's true. Now, that's the puddle we're talking about there, and that's the curb I was talking about. That curb over there is one of the curves that you can still use to rotate the car, but the problem is the car might rotate too much.
Yeah, and the Audi has that funny thing that it does in the rear end where it likes to put you into this half spin where you don't go all the way around, but you also cannot catch it. It does it in the dry. I suspect that's exactly what happened to Roots now.
Yeah, because normally what happens, Jonathan, is that's where the all-wheel drive kicks in and pulls them out.
Yes.
Forgot to engineer that part into the car.
Well, Audi's certainly losing that advantage this time. I think that four-wheel drive would have come in very handy now. Another car that could be using four-wheel drive is perhaps the Bentley, affectionately known and affectionately called by even the Bentley drivers the Boatley. And this one here seems to have a little bit of understeer engineered into it. And let's see if that's going to pay off. The tires certainly are going to take a pounding after 15 minutes of racing. And some of the drivers did do 50-minute simulations last night as we cut now to Skitter in the second of the Ferraris. Noor Hendricks now having fallen back as Van Rooyen runs wide there. Van Rooyen runs wide and gets taken by Skitter. And Skitter now the lead Ferrari.
Listen, that was brilliant. It's a game. He braked himself, ran wide, got it into a bit of a slide, but did a great job in terms of not rotating the car, controlling it, but obviously losing a place. But like you said, he's still in the fight. I mean, that could have ended up facing the wrong way. So good car control.
Yeah, I think he's very happy with the outcome of that. I mean,
you missed the chicane there as well.
Losing one.
The pressure looks like it there. Unfortunately, and the concentration it takes, man, to do this. It's now 28 minutes in, and all it takes is one mistake after 28 minutes. It doesn't matter what I do for 28 minutes, I'm probably going to make a mistake in there somewhere. So these guys are doing well to keep it together for 28 minutes. They've got another 32 to go, though.
But Jonathan, you're right in terms of what you're saying there. I mean, a lot of the time when there's a spin coming, like I think you were trying to say, you're happy if you can just save it, keep the car in that direction.
Yeah, you haven't taken anybody out. You haven't taken yourself out. You've hurt yourself for one corner. Now it's time to get your head down and get back into it.
Jonathan, you're so right. I think a lot of the guys get frustrated easily, as we saw with Hendricks over there. Made one mistake, fair enough, you know, it happens. Then ended up making two more, and now he's lost two positions. And you know, it's that's the issue in these conditions. It's not to get frustrated; it's to keep that composure, as we saw Skitter doing there, as he carved his way past those Ferraris one after the next.
Sure. And I see Ritz is down in fourth position now, so we've got another Aston Martin up into P3. That's very interesting. I don't know if he had another incident, perhaps another little spin.
He must have. He's 8 seconds back now.
Yeah.
Can I just say, best of British. These are the track conditions are perfect.
That's working out great. Yeah.
Aston, Bentley, Aston. But yeah, I'm sure Zander's gone and made another mistake because obviously a bit grumpy
Oh,
after
no, he's
coming
just
back.
managed to come back at LaRue now, so it's,
Yeah, you're saying?
if we can look there between the battle with Ritz and LaRue, it's a fantastic battle going on there.
There we go.
Actually got
So
that position back.
He's managed to get it back. I think LaRue ran a little bit wide in the one turn and Ritz got him back.
It's really a case of minimizing errors here, isn't it, Marius? Just to try and make sure that over the space of 50 minutes, you have as few errors to deal with as possible.
You know what I'd love to have done? I'd love to have actually just spend more time in understanding how these wet tires are going to go, because usually what we've seen with like 15 to 10 minutes to go, the tires are going off. So I don't know what that window is going to be in these conditions, but I think just for the drivers, they might go off because you're concentration in conditions like this. It's on a different level. I mean, seriously, it's like you can't get into a zone because the rhythm is so hard to find, because every corner is a constant battle and it's an ever-changing lap as it evolves in these conditions. So very, very hard to get into a comfortable rhythm. I think the guys could be exhausted with 10 minutes to go.
Indeed. With the tire situation, the main thing with the tires for these drivers is that they want to get the tires set up correctly. Once they've got the tire pressure set up, they should last the full race. And yes, they might have some wear at the end, but that, as you said, is 100% right, Marius. The main issue here is the nut behind the wheel and making sure that that nut is very, very tight.
Oh, man. You know, I love races like this because it really, we've mentioned a few times now, it's going to separate the men from the boys, and some names are going to be made here. And I think after this race weekend, there'll be a couple guys in the sim community on Discord that are going, beating some chest, saying, "Look at me, you know, I've been and I'm a winner." And Etienne's a perfect example of that because we haven't been speaking of him at the top of of any race group. He hasn't been in the top 10 in most of them, I think. And yeah, suddenly there he is qualifying, had a bad first lap, but he's back in the lead again, and this is good.
This is great stuff and beautiful stuff for him. The lead now extended to 0.8 seconds as the Bentley now, you can see Van Coller starting to push hard, and this is something he's going to have to watch out for, because chasing is one thing, but chasing in the wet is a whole other story, because you think you've got it and you think you've got the pace on someone in front, but it just takes one mistake from either of you guys. As we go on board now, as we look at the E-Code there, Craig E-Code in 11th position in the Audi, catching up to Fenter there in the Porsche. The gap now just half a second, and then Audi looking good as he goes through the NGK chicane there. And as you said, Jonathan, the Audi seems to be quite stable in the wind.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving like how these guys are driving at the moment. I've only got one incident on my notebook here, and it was a racing incident. This is fantastic, and the Audis are really looking strong here. I'm hoping to see Ritz come back at the top two, but the British cars are showing their pace here. They're easy to drive in the rain, it seems, and I think tire life. I wonder how this is going to play out. Oh, I can't wait.
I think the tires are going to last. As the E-Code has a look here down the inside of Fenter, that's not a place you want to look, but he takes that look and takes the position as well. Fenter having to slow down quite a bit. I think Fenter's pace just wasn't able to match him, and E-Code gets an easy position there and slots into 10th place. Yes, please, I will take that top 10 finish.
He picked that flipping well, because it looked like Fenter just ran it a little bit wide, and I thought, he's going to be able to turn the car and get it back in, and he couldn't. So well picked up there by Craig. Great position. It's just interesting to see. I mean, I know I've just listened to you guys who've spent time playing Assetto Corsa, and which cars are best in both. Who's got off there? Is that Kutsia? No, who's got?
That's one of the Audis from Volkswagen. That's Koenig. That's okay. Koenig, one of our new drivers, currently in 23rd position, still learning the track and learning the game, but he's in the mix. He's there.
Yeah, great to learn in these conditions. It's a proper learning experience. But I was just saying, like, those are the cars that you guys were saying were the really well-balanced, easy cars to get your head around. And it's in conditions like these where those cars are really going to excel. The Aston for me just looks like it's neutral, which I love. I know what you were saying about dialing some understeer into the Bentley, which is very noticeable, which is kind of what you want to do. You don't want a lively rear in wet conditions. But you also don't want to be gliding the front. You want a front that you know when you do commit to a turn is going to turn. So the Aston for me looks really, really good at the moment, just from what we've seen from a commentary perspective. It just looked really neutral.
It's really great to see that Aston doing so well. And we've always said that the Aston's got the balance. It's just not able to show that pace. Today is most certainly the day where it can show that pace. Currently in first position is that Aston Martin as we join Jason van Rooyen now in the MILC Milk Ferrari in pink. You can't miss this car, that's for sure. Makes his way now through the Mercedes arena over there. And in front of him,
ahead of him though, sorry to jump there.
Yeah.
Vander's got ahead of him because he was sitting behind him. Because remember, Sean Skitzer got past when he made a mistake.
Yes.
Running wide, but it looks like Van has actually come back at him. Noah Hendricks, we can see in the distance, he was part of this battle, but also made a mistake and ran wide. So, yeah, it looks like Van is making a comeback in the Merc, and yeah, it's good driving. He's obviously made a little mistake there as Van Rooyen.
And what's weird is the two sections that I think are quite difficult, which is the Schumacher S's and then the Vashtainer curve. A lot of the guys haven't really gone off there. I mean, a couple of mistakes here and there, but no big incidents. And I tell you what, that Schumacher S is hairy in these cars. Not only do you have to get your markers right, but your turning point has to be absolutely spot on, because if it isn't, you're just going to run straight on. So these guys, I commend these guys, considering them just air quotes Pro-Am guys. What fantastic performance from a lot of them, and what fantastic driving from most of them.
Well, this looks like a comeback drive from Isherwood. You remember, end of lap 1, he got taken out, coming out of turn 15, dropped him way back. So it's good to see he's still in the race in 15th place and closing up on Wentworth and the Lexus just up ahead. Yeah, we're coming up to the Schumacher S's now, and just, you know, what you were saying, I think in the drive, obviously a fully committed corner, but I think the guys are less committed through here, so there's going to be less issues. For me, it's those little silly, tight rotating corners where you want to come a little bit too early. I think that's where the guys we've seen making most of the mistakes, outbraking themselves there. I think those real left and right, easy line up the car and go corners, the guys haven't been struggling with. It's the late braking ones that have been causing some issues.
Well, someone that's getting issues now, and one of these guys is going to be the last of the late breakers, is Wentworth in the Lexus. Another car that is really fun to drive in these conditions and fast on the top end as well. As you can see, they're now starting to pull a bit of a gap as they go through that final chicane, the NGK chicane, bouncing over the bounce over there, and the Lexus just looking really comfy, Bentley looking really comfortable over those bumps. The Lexus, not so much.
Lexus, I tell you what, the Lexus is probably the best wet weather car in this game. I'm surprised it's not a little bit higher on the grid at the moment, but Lexus is a fantastic car. I want to point out quickly, just looking on the lineup on the left there, 10th, Craig Eckert. He served a quali ban this race for an incident at Monza. So he's coming from the back of the grid. He's currently P10. Then we've got Sean Buck in P12. He also served a quali ban for an incident at Monza. And those two drivers coming from the back of the grid up in P10 and P12. Fantastic performance from those guys. You see, it's a qualifying ban, while it's a penalty that may hurt, like, in the moment. I tell you what, these guys, anything can happen. You've got to just get your head down. You never know what's going to happen afterwards. Especially, I mean, look at those guys up front there. I mean, we thought Ritz had that down, and then he spun it there and putting him in P3. So, you cannot give up. You just cannot. You got to push.
You've got to push. And someone that is pushing now is the Bentley behind that Lexus over there, giving him some real pressure. And as you said, the Lexus is a fantastic car. He has got good top speed, great handling, and watch out in the Pro division for Weza, one of the drivers in the Lexus. Yeah. He's up 7 positions from his last Pro qualifying. So he's going to be very happy to, or at least proceeding. So he's going to be happy to see that he's now up the field. And I think the Lexus really in with a chance of getting a good finish as we go on board with the Bentley now.
It's lovely to see that, because you can see just how much work is being done on board, on the wheel. It's like you're used to seeing a smooth turn in and no corrections and no fighting the cars, but you'll see him now as he starts coming up into the NGK chicane. You'll see there'll be a little bit of work and correction on the extra in particular. Usually they fight in the car, but that looks pretty smooth.
That was the first smooth one we've seen.
It's when he came over that the previous lap, it looked like the front end was bouncing around a bit. So it definitely looks like he's got a bit of a softer setup, which a lot of the guys might be going with. Firm is going to give you less opportunity to catch any mistakes that you might make. So maybe they are running with a softer setup. Noah Hendricks looks like he's back in the game. He made the mistake, fell quite far back, but I just saw Van Rooyen just up ahead of him. So it looks like he's found his groove again. 20 minutes to go. This is normally when we start heading into that twilight zone in the race, where the guys aren't sure when you make a mistake, aren't sure what they're going to have from a tyre perspective and where their heads are going to be at as well. So this is normally where we start seeing all the action. But I'm glad you brought up those guys with quali bands that have done great jobs driving through the pack. But I think that is, we know Buck has had massive pace. He's always been there, and Echo. These are fast drivers. So I think that's why their class is coming to the top. So if you were going to get a qualifying ban, it would have to be this track in these conditions. Because if you
Indeed, so he timed it absolutely perfectly. I honestly would see nothing wrong with the start from the pit lane in these conditions, because you just let everybody else sort themselves out, and I'll just take those positions as I come through. Thank you very much, which is exactly what those two drivers have done. We're now looking at Eco now in 10th position in the Audi, and he's looking pretty good, chasing down Kutsia there in the other Aston Martin in 9th position. We go now to the eye in the sky as they go through the Ad Van Bogen, they call it, that very fast sweeping right-hander that leads straight up to the chicane over here, the NGK chicane. And that NGK chicane, it's one of those corners where you use the same gear as in the dry. So it's a third gear corner in the dry and a third gear corner in the wet. But the amount of commitment it takes to go through there fast in the wet with a car behind you in front of you, you just think to yourself, I'd much rather be going slower right now.
No, I think that's, for me, having done a few laps here now in this simulation, it is the one place where you do find you think a lot, because in terms you want to line it up, you want to take just the right amount of curve, and that's in the dry. So I think it's very easy to get it wrong in the wet. But what a great corner, because I mean, you always get the shine from an overtaking perspective if you get the drive out from the top of the hill through that fast sweep. It's one of the beautiful parts of the circuit. That first little bit is so technical and tricky, the first part of the circuit, and then it opens up and there's more committed high-speed stuff. So that's for me what makes it such a cool, balanced driving circuit, because it suits different driving styles and different cars because of the mix and variety of corners.
Indeed, definitely a mix and variety of corners here. And this section over here, heading now into the hard hairpin at the bottom, turn 7 over there. This section here is where some of the cars actually start hydroplaning and they start aquaplaning in a straight line. So you've even got that sort of element where it's entirely possible to lose control even on the straight bits in these conditions.
But I remember watching Kelvin van der Linde, Nürburgring 24 hours, going through this racetrack section before they hang a left to join the Neuschleife at night, flashing lights, and you're just going, oh my word. You know, commitments to the extreme, where they're down in cars like this doing 300 and the other guys are doing 180 kilometers an hour. So the closing speeds are just on a different level, and massive respect then for these drivers and what they're capable of doing. It's unbelievable.
Well done to Koenig there for staying out of the way. And just as you were saying that, they're coming up to one of those back markers there. That's Koenig there, the first time he's joining us here, quite off the pace, but staying out of trouble by the looks of things, as we now have what looks to be developing into a three-way battle as Eco now approaches what looks like Noor Hendricks there and Kutsia to try and figure, this is Van Rooyen, sorry, Eco approaches Van Rooyen and Kutsia to try and figure out which one of them is going to get that 8th position, and Van Rooyen gets it sideways. Now I tell you what, getting it sideways out of that last corner loses you a lot of speed down the straight here as we go into the eye in the sky. Now we should see that Audi starting to close in on these two guys under braking here. You see the 150-meter mark has been taken away. Oh, Van Rooyen runs very wide. The Audi managed to take the dry line there and slots in between the two. 3 abreast is not going to work here. Will Van Rooyen give up that position? The Audi runs wide there. Van Rooyen keeps the dry inside line. They're now going towards this tight left-hander where we saw a couple of cars spinning out. This is the section Marius was talking about earlier where drivers need to be very, very careful. There's a puddle on the inside. The Ferrari grabs a lot of curve, goes into the puddle. He's now going to try and straighten out this next section. But the positions remain the same for now. And Van Rooyen gets to fight another lap, at least in 9th position.
What I like about these conditions is I think it makes the drivers, I mentioned it earlier, I think it makes the drivers drive differently. Now, when you saw those 3 drivers get so close in turn 1 there, if those conditions were dry, you would have seen an attack on that next left-hander. cars going too wide into the turns or whatever. But I think these conditions just dial it back a bit for the guys, and I like to see that. This is very cool.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was about to mention what was so great being eye in the sky, seeing that, is that for me, Craig did so well there, because you saw
Van Rooyen runs wide.
he saw Van Rooyen running wide previously, and it's so easy for him to just have a go there. But he thought, hang on, let's see where this car's going to come back. I'm going to give him space, and that is mature driving. So you were right, you nailed it. The guys are going to just dial things back a little bit more, and that's good to see. So for me, I mean, for Echo, this is awesome, because now he starts scoring points. I think it's top 40 that score points in the series. So yeah, for a comeback drive with no qualifying starting back to the fourth, and we've got a Bentley parked in the middle of the track.
It would be the biggest car.
Let's pick a little one.
Parked in the middle of the track. They're giving Venter and Buck a little bit something to think about there. We're now on board with Buck, another charging driver in that Porsche over there, and he's taking on Venter. Oh, Venter runs wide there over the S's, and into the final corner they go. Now Buck now is going to want to have a look here, and Venter, we saw early on Venter making a mistake under pressure, so I suspect Buck is going to make easy work of Venter in 11th position and possibly get himself a top 10 finish from the pits. Let's see. As a look down the inside there. Marius breaking up there a little bit. I'm just going to get back to the action here. He's having a look down the inside there, just trying to make sure that space is available, and also letting Venter know that he's there. And some of the guys are using a bit of mind games, because you can flash lights on these cars as well. So there's nothing illegal about flashing the guy in front of you, is there, Jono?
not in the rules, but I think there's an unwritten sportsman's conduct which would probably frown upon that. But
you need to speak to your drivers then, because they were doing that to me all week.
But we've briefed them to do that specifically to you, so it's okay.
I used to love the old days. Listen, you're not going to have it today, where the only flashing that was happening was from the girls in the stands. But that's not going to be happening in conditions like this, because either it's too cold, or like we've seen with a lot of our COVID sporting events, they actually put cardboard cutouts. I don't know if you guys have noticed that.
It's so lame.
Events.
It's so lame.
Cardboard people in the stand. I'm like, we know no one's there. Don't pretend people are. So
yeah, they'd be looking a bit soggy today.
Yeah, no one's.
I tell you what. Van Rooyen gets a big time sideways there. Now the tires on some of these cars could be going off, because if the guys were pushing too hard in the earlier parts of the race, and their traction control was too low, they could be losing rear tire pressure, or they could be gaining too much rear tire pressure, which would then make their cars a little bit oversteer heavy. Now, I tell you what, I am sitting at home in the comfort of my home, and I just want to thank our sponsors for a moment, Corsair, AMD, and Elgato, who made it possible for us to have a wet race in the total comfort of our homes. I mean, this is what it's about these days in these COVID heavy times, isn't it?
Yeah, listen, look, I'm sure they're nice and hot, the drivers on now. Fun conditions to be in, but we've got our heaters on and we're sitting chilled and doing the action. But we haven't mentioned our leader, Etienne Kleber. I'm just having a look at the top there. 7-second gap he's opened up now. He's done a bit of pressure from Record, and then he started pulling away. Well, that's massive. So for him now,
he goes back into 11th position there, Maurice.
Yeah, it's that tricky time for a driver, because it's like, whatever you've been doing right. Now you start thinking, okay, 13 minutes to go, I'm in the lead, maybe back things off a little bit, and sometimes that isn't good, because you end up losing the rhythm, you start making mistakes. Like, it's hard to dial out the brain here and not start over-analyzing and overthinking, but potentially this could be a massive result for him and a fantastic drive with a 7-second lead. Etienne Ron, having a look at him now, coming up on some back markers in the Lambo, so brilliant driving at this stage.
Well, he just did a 2:05. That's about 1 second off his qualifying, and I can tell you, 2:05 is not slow around here. Some of the pro guys won't be able to do 2:05, so Etienne Kleber really driving the drive of his life here as he comes into the Lamborghini, and he'll be getting some flashing. The Lamborghini gets out the way, and rightly so. And Etienne Kleber crosses the line. This wouldn't have slowed him down too much. So those 2:05s, that's a qualifying pace, and if he can knock out a couple of those in the last 12 minutes, he should be just fine in the amped to play Aston Martin.
Yeah, but I mean, now we're wondering about what's going to happen with the tires. He doesn't seem to be struggling. I mean, you were talking about Ferrari and how well balanced it is. So maybe it's just a case of driving smooth and it just being some mistakes that we've been seeing Van Rooyen and the guys making, because both Richard and Etienne seem to be good on grip levels at this stage.
Indeed. I do think that once the drivers start having to fight with other drivers that are doing 202s or 203s, as we saw in the Pro Division, it gets a bit difficult. And there is a problem right there. Zanderhout's grabbing some curb. And I think he might have been grabbing too much curb in the time of the race, because he's had 2 spins that we know of. And you can see the Audi's really riding the curb. And even the thing about curb riding is that, yes, it'll work 9 times, but the 10th time it might not. And that's really the time that's going to cost you the most amount of lap time.
It's a bit of a pity to see him struggling a bit now, but it really looks like he's got a tire issue or something. Perhaps his tire pressures were fantastic at the beginning of the race, but I mean, he's fallen back a fair bit. It's unfortunate, but I wonder if LaRue's got anything for him. I think he's still a bit far back for that.
Yeah, definitely LaRue's quite a bit far back, and depends. Anything can change in the last 10 minutes. We've seen it before.
It always does, but LaRue's also fallen back. So if you remember, Zander and Leon were together. So whatever the problem is, Zander's lapping quicker than Leon. I mean, it'd be nice if we'd see a split time on that, but that's what I think's happening. So Zander seems quite secure there. Leon's falling back. I want to see what's happening with Hubert, because he's 5 seconds behind. It'd be nice to watch him maybe over a lap or 2 and see if his splits are quicker, because LaRue could be coming under pressure with like 5 minutes to go in this race.
Well, Joubert definitely now starting to apply the pressure a little bit. You can see he's pushing the pace. The car running a little bit, getting a bit squirrely there through the corners. And these Mercedes in these conditions, with that heavy front engine up front and the long wheelbase, it's a bit of a handful. You need to know how to catch a slide in these Mercs. And we saw Jason Webb doing well in this car, and I think we're going to see him do well in the rain later on. But right now, in 5th place is Werner Joubert, the first of the Mercs, and that's not a bad result for him. Surely he's going to be happy with that. As Skitter now, another driver gets a sideways in the Ferrari there. He's going to be happy with this result as well. 6th position for him. Wow, what a fantastic performance, and the first of the Ferrari, leading Noor Hendricks in 7th position, and unfortunately, Jason Van Rooyen slipping down to 10th now.
Yeah, I just think about that Merc, and I think, well, it was made as a rear-wheel drive, so everything about it is set up. It's just where I struggle getting my head around, like the R8. You know, the ones that are racing are usually all-wheel drive. Yeah, they're rear-wheel drive. So it's just, I mean, that car, I know you're saying is so difficult to drive. I must maybe get in one on the sim and see what it's like, because you'd think, well, that is how it came out the factory. So it's set up on the game, should be pretty accurate. But yeah, apparently it is a tricky car. Yeah. But Van is doing a great job in 5th. And it looks like his lap times are pretty static compared with Leon LaRue just ahead of him, so not much happening there. But look who's closed right on the back is Craig Eckhart onto the back of Noah Hendricks. Remember, he started without qualifying from the back of the grid, and what a charge. I mean, Etienne is the driver at the moment, but I think driver of the day at this stage for me is Craig. Let's see where he ends up, but I think Noah Hendricks is going to be overtaken in this lap for sure.
Well, Eckhart wouldn't have known that he would go from the naughty child to the star pupil in just one race, going from the pit lane now into protect. What's that?
That's what discipline does. Sometimes brings out the best in you. Outbraking himself a little bit there, but still managed to get the car turned in.
Well, the line through there that I found works best for me is actually kind of running all the way up, like similar to Kyalami in Cape Town Turn 5. Oh, Eckhart gets it very sideways there through the Schumacher S's. Manages to recover, holds it together.
I thought he was done for.
Only just held it together. And what a camera angle we had there as he came underneath the camera.
Yeah, Daniel, our director, that was legendary. How you had because that was amazing. We all expected to find him parking in the stands, facing the wrong way, but great car control. But I think he's just proving the point. I said he'd pass him on this lap, clearly not.
Well, Noor Hendricks getting a little bit of breathing space there. He's got 7 minutes and 45 seconds to survive this onslaught from the charging Eckhart. Eckhart's going to want to make sure that he brings that car home in one piece. We got on board now with Stanley Fenter in 13th position, chasing down Rino Adrianso, who before was running at the back of ProAM, is now in the wet in 12th position. So a real shuffling of the deck this week, it seems.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Can we have rain for the next 3 rounds, please? Please, Jonathan. It's going to be sunny Barcelona in 2 weeks' time.
Well, let's start some rumors and get the guys panicking a bit. For next race in Barcelona, yeah.
We'll not have to, because Monday night at this stage, we've got nothing to talk about. There's no.
Well, you were talking about those rumors earlier on. I tell you, the Twitter sphere was abuzz this week with guys wanting to know, get inside information on what the rain weather was. I was like, if it's not public knowledge, then I don't know. And I tell you what, the guys were speculating the entire week about what the scenario is that's coming. And I know that a lot of the people that are listening out there might not know who a gentleman named Warren is. He's the man at ATK that makes all of this possible. And I can imagine this week he was rubbing his hands together with Jono, going, today, this week, we're going to throw these guys a little bit of a curve.
Well, you know what we should do now? Because, I mean, no, this is a closed chat. No one's actually hearing what we're saying now. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's definitely going to be rain. Jono, you say, no, can't talk about it because you're official. I'll say we're expecting snow in Barcelona. Yes.
There is a torrential rain setting, and it is almost impossible to see and almost impossible to drive. The track literally is rated as flooded with aquaplaning on every single corner. It is insane, and it's not fun to drive, but I'm okay to watch these guys try and survive 50 minutes of that.
Essentially, that was the setting at the Intercontinental GT Challenge at Kyalami, the 9-hour end of last year, because that was torrential setting. About 2 or 3 hours in that race. So, geez, I mean, you couldn't drive in it. What would happen with that? Would they bring out a safety car?
With regard to the safety car, the game doesn't specifically have a safety car option. So I think it would be up to the organizers to say, you know what, when you set the game initially, set it up initially, you need to set what the parameters are. And if it does go to torrential, it shouldn't stay there for too long. But I think that would be an impossible setting for these guys, because you'd have someone in 16th position making sure that he takes out the entire field up front.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. We've got Echo running across the apex there. But, you know, setting up a server, there's a bit of an art to it, you know. As much as there is an art to driving fast and getting around through the race, you know, there's an art to setting up the server that is, you know, mimicking real life, so that you don't have, like, impossible scenarios happening. For example, rain at Laguna Seca. That's just ridiculous. So you know, I don't think we'll ever see a scenario where something impossible happens. You know, from bright sunshine to flooded track.
Yeah. The game is quite intelligent that way. The game is very clever that way.
Well, that's where Johannesburg throws a curveball, because, you know, Johannesburg, you go from 40 degrees to, I mean, that was the chat we're having with the drivers. I'll never forget last year. And they're arriving and it's hot and it's beautiful summer, Johannesburg, 35 degrees. And then 4 o'clock, it's like bucketing down there going, where did this come from? I said, are you joking? This is stock standard every single day. No, never. Next day, same thing. Eventually guys were, oh, wow. I'm like, how did you not come prepared for this? This is normal. So that's where guys like Jordan and Kelvin and Sheldon were obviously giving their team some massive heads up way before the time. But I mean, those settings are great. But Joe, you're right. I mean, certain tracks like that, it's never going to have ridiculous settings, you know?
Yeah. Well,
so I guess we can look forward to Kyalami then, hey? What's it around there?
Well, I've got a friend of mine in Germany who was telling me she's sitting in front of the fan because the heat is unbearable. And then literally 3 or 4 hours later sends me a picture of the streets being flooded. So this is a very real possibility in Germany. And at the moment we're seeing... and Cape Town, And we're seeing the Nürburgring getting a bit of a pounding here by quite a few horizontal and vertical raindrops as Eekhout now starts to hunt down Noor Hendricks, and we've got that Audi over there that's Kersop, I think, our new driver running wide there, making sure to stay out of the way. Koenig making sure to stay out of the way there. Well done to him. Koenig really behaving himself. I mean, Eekhout getting onto the curb. The Eekhout making some mistakes, but getting the position there. Oh, sorry, that's Eekhout. No, Eekhout's behind him. There was Hendricks there that made the mistake. Eekhout now having a look down the inside. He's going to try and do the crossover here. Can he do it? Nope, he runs wide. And we've got 2.5 minutes of racing left, and now the battle between these three guys starting to unfold.
Who's that ahead? I mean, I thought for a moment that was Hubert, but Hubert's way further up the track. But
it does look like a Mercedes over there.
Look
like a Mercedes.
I mean, Hubert's way further up the...
I think that is Hubert. I think Hubert might have made a mistake, because that does look like a Mercedes up front there, and we've only got that Mercedes in the field here.
Oh, but it's showing him as 8 seconds. Oh no, there we go. So that, yes, Hubert's gone and made a mistake because he was like 7 seconds up the road. 8.8. But a really good battle with 2 minutes to go. And up for grabs is 6th place with 3 guys in the fight. So for Craig, he could end up going from last to 6th, which is amazing. So this is going to be spicy with 2 to go.
Spicy is exactly what we were looking forward to, and I love that this happens at the end of every race. There's always a battle towards the finish line. 1 minute and 40 seconds on the board. We've got the Mercedes now in 6th position. Noor Hendricks just 0.8 seconds behind. Behind that, we've got Eco, another 0.5 seconds down the road. Eco seems to have dropped back a little bit. Noor Hendricks now, a man on a mission, visor down, chasing down the Mercedes. The Mercedes has lost pace all of a sudden. I wonder what's happened to that car. Noor Hendricks now really starting to apply the pressure, and Eco looking on, hoping for a mistake, I'm sure, and the guys make their way through to the final couple of laps.
This ain't over. Watch turn 1. There's chaos, and I think that's why Craig's dropped back a bit just to make sure he doesn't become collateral damage. But we must stay with the action, but I'm just giving a shout out to Etienne Kleb. 8 seconds over Richard van Coller. Looks like race wrapped and done. Brilliant drive in the Aston Martin. Well done. But this is a battle to watch to the flag with a lap to go.
Noor Hendricks cutting the curb a little bit closer and getting a little bit of oversteer through the first section, now going to the arena. Gets a bit of curb there, but he uses that curb to rotate the car quite nicely, and it is possible to gain some speed by rotating, but such a risky move, especially with just 36 seconds to go. They're going to come through this lap and then get told that they've got one more lap left as the leader goes on to his final lap, and that means they've got one more lap to try and sort out this battle. Joubert has to make sure to keep it together. It's very easy to catch up in these conditions, but exceptionally difficult to overtake. But such pressure being applied now as Eco gets involved in the battle finally.
Yeah, I think what Van was hoping for is that Etienne would slow things down and collect the flag. But it looks like he might. I mean, he's quite a few seconds up ahead, so he might be going on to that final lap. So, we could be treated to grandstand racing for an extra lap, which makes me very, very happy. But interesting because, Craig, we thought was on that massive charge, and he's made a couple of mistakes here that have cost him. Good battle there. And that's 4th place, Leon Leroux. Interesting to see if the race is going to be done, if it is flag. It looks like Etienne has got the flag. Has he? Yeah, that's the race done. Etienne over.
That's the race done. Wow.
Extra lap. So it did work out well that he didn't cross over. So Van is going to be super stoked because it looks like he's going to hold on for 6th place.
I'd like to cut to that visuals. There we go. Van and Joubert getting chased down. Eco having a final look now. 3 guys running nose to tail through the right-hander. They're coming up to the final chicane now. Just keep it together, guys. Eckhout having a look down the inside there, just letting him know that he's there. Is Eckhout going to have a dive? Yes, he does. Oh, we got a Lamborghini on the curb there. The Porsche, the Ferrari goes wide, gets a slide there. Mercedes-Benz hold on, and they go across the line. Looks like it. Excuse me. In the same positions. Yes, indeed.
Oh, my goodness. What an end to that battle. Wow.
That is the last thing you want. Coming to a critical... Okay, Lamborghini goes and plants it facing the wrong way. That must have given them a oh my word, because you've picked your brake marker, now suddenly you've got to get on the brakes a bit heavier and you can't. But luckily that spinning Lamborghini didn't cause any additional problems. That was brilliant into the race, and well done to Van Hubert holding on for 6th place.
I tell you what, all 3 of those drivers are thrilled with their positions. They don't care they're not on the podium. Joubert feels like he's won the race. Eckhout feels like he's won the race. Hendricks is glad to have survived on one hand, but disappointed to have not gotten Joubert at the end. But I'll tell you, those 3 drivers are just on top of the world right now.
Well, the checkered flag has been waved, and we're going to cut to a short break. We'll be right back with some interviews with some of the drivers. Lots of action to talk about. We'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me in. Don't play that. Take you down, don't play that. I need me a couple dollars. Telling you now, just pay that. Fuck that. Ask them now, what's stage at? I've been going to the top and I got what they not, so I know that they hate that.
He had to slip down all the way into turn 1 and he's breaking it down.
And all these men gonna say what I did and they twisting their words till I find out. But I know that, so I keep what I'm doing cause I own that. And I stay in the lab and I kill everything, but I don't ever move from my phone. Finally back in my home. I'm
Still after the start of this safety car. Can we have one later on? So it'll be just about
all in, can't beat me up cause I'm back in my zone now.
Having a great scrap and almost
We got podium next there. Here we go. That is what your podium looks like. We've got Etienne Kleb on the top spot there. Richard van Coller back on the podium there in the Bentley, or Boatley as it is fondly known. And Marius, that car did exceptionally well to stay ahead of Roots in third position. The Roots, unfortunately, in the lead at one stage, but I'm sure he'll be happy with the podium position nonetheless.
No, what's got to happen now is, I mean, like we mentioned, Etienne, we haven't seen much of him in terms of front running. I mean, it's so bad he hasn't even got a profile photograph. I'm sure that's been changed by our next round in Barcelona. But Etienne, for me, stand-out drive. Surprised when he put it on pole, and then he backed it up.
Unbelievable stuff, totally backs it up. And Etienne Kleb falling back into fourth position there. What a drive from him. You know what happens when you qualify well, you fall back a little bit. The frustration, the anxiety, the stress, to come back and still put down the lap times that he does and claw his way back under extreme pressure, getting a gap at the end there. That's one of my best winning drives we've seen all year.
Yeah, and I think just a shout out to the entire Pro-Am grid, because we were talking during the ad break with Jonathan, like no incidents. The guys really came here as professional drivers today, realized tricky conditions, gave each other space, were good on the brakes, weren't trying to go for stupid moves, and we ended up having a fantastic race right through the field. So for our top three, yeah, brilliant. Well done to you guys. But there were a lot of guys that came without qualifying right from the back. We think of Craig Eckhart, who did a fantastic drive as well. That little battle at the end was just fantastic to watch. So this, for me, was a fantastic round 6 of the Nürburgring for the Pro-Ams.
And the Pro-Am's times were also very good. I mean, some of these guys were doing 204s, 205s, 206s. And that is, we're going to see some of the pro guys barely managing to do that in the rain. So the rain really is the ultimate equalizer, and the talent bubble to the surface. And in this case, the talent includes Etienne Kleb, Richard van Coller, and Zander Roots. Well done to these three drivers so far. Your driver of the day, it's got to be the drivers that started from the pit lane, Buck being one of them. Jono, what are your thoughts on our pit lane starters having clawed their way up so well?
My goodness. I've just sent them messages now. I mean, like, I won't lie that they were disappointed with their penalties, but I tell you what, man, those guys showed some class today. And driver of the day for me, echoed for sure. But that is not taking anything away from Kleb. Kleb is right up there with him, driver of the day.
Well, we've got Richard van Coller about to join us here in our virtual studio, and he, of course, the second place man. Richard van Coller, what a drive in! I know you call the car the Boatley, but it looked like it understeered a little bit. But you had that car under control all the time. Tell us what it was like in these conditions.
Hi guys. It was very tough. I had a setup that was prepared for if the weather changes to dryish. So I had a little bit of less downforce on it.
Yeah, we just had some
Better
technical
now?
issues there with Richard. There we go. Much better now, Richard. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I was hoping for the weather to change a little bit to dry, to run on slicks, but overall, not too bad. There was just about 2 incidents that I just avoided. Turn 1 where Roots cut into a corner. I barely braked there. And then on the last lap, turn 1, Porsche lost it, and I saw a sideways Porsche in my mirror as I wanted to turn in.
Oh my goodness. And you managed to keep it together the entire time. What Marius was talking about, the concentration levels early on. What is it like to focus like this for 50 minutes? Is it total focus for 50 minutes, or are you relaxing on the straights? What's happening inside the car?
Oh no, you're sweating a lot, literally. Yeah, the car slides a little bit if you're trying to run a little bit of less traction just to get off the turn exit, but you need to control it.
Richard, we were speculating. I mean, none of us know sitting in commentary, and I'm sure it was a bit of a gamble for you as well in the race, how those wet tires are going to hold up for 50 minutes. No problems in terms of grip?
No, the tires were fine. I mean, there's a lot of times where you go off the line, not even by mistake, so the tires cools off a lot.
And were you able, because I mean, this is always my thing. I know in wets, you look for different lines because the grip isn't necessarily always on the racing line. Was that a case today during the practice sessions? Were you looking to see if the grip might have been wider on one of the corners instead of the normal line?
Yes, I did go a bit wider into some corners.
No.
Now, the dry line that was appearing there, was that actually more grippy? Or because a lot of the guys were actually using the conventional lines a lot of the times and avoiding the puddles. What did you find was the correct line around you?
There's a lot of turns where the dry line started, and that pushed me wide for some reason.
Oh, wow.
So I just kept it on the wet stuff most of the time.
Well, a fantastic drive, and I'm sure you're going to be happy with collecting those 10 points towards the championship and a second place in Pro-Am in what is the trickiest conditions we faced this year so far. Well done. A fantastic drive there, Richard. Fantastic drive. Well, shortly we will be heading to the Pro Division and seeing what is happening there. But before we do that, we've got Etienne Kleb joining us in the commentary booth. Marius, what are your thoughts when it comes to Etienne Kleb? I mean, to me, one of the drivers of the day. Etienne fell back, kept his cool. I mean, just amazing stuff.
Etienne, do me a favor. Can we get a profile photograph with you? He's got a joker face, he's got a proper smile. I'm sure you're grinning right now, but that was a drive. You know, during qualifying, we kind of were saying like, yeah, you've kind of been mid-pack, and suddenly there it was on qualifying, and then you went and nailed it in the race and showed a lot of composure, not having a great opening lap, but what a comeback drive. Brilliant.
Oh, thanks a lot, my grin is the same as that profile pic for sure. Similar weather to what we've been having in Cape Town. So the first lap, I missed my braking point by about 10-15 meters, ran wide. So lost a couple of positions there, but then I knew, okay, well, the Aston is quite good in the rain. Keep your cool, stay behind the Oaks, and just push, and then eventually I got through.
But Etienne, for us, you know, we get the eye in the sky shot a lot of the time, and it really does reveal the setup on the car. And that Aston just seems so neutral. You know, you weren't fighting any oversteer, you hadn't dialed in any understeer, which a lot of the guys seem to have been doing on the cars. It just seemed on rails. Brilliant setup.
Yeah, perfectly balanced, especially in the rain. Well, the Aston is good in the rain, but yeah, balanced, no oversteer, no understeer, just hit the brake marks, and then you set. And your acceleration out of the corner, keep your cool with your acceleration, then you won't have any problems.
So listen, have a chat to me. We'll see if we can arrange rain for the next 3 rounds, because it seems like it's going to suit you.
Please, yeah, no, that'll suit me most definitely.
Well, definitely some of the drivers prefer the rain, and as we always say, rain is the ultimate equalizer. Etienne, one of my favorite drives I've seen in the whole series, because I know what it's like to make a mistake on the first corner. And the first corner of a 50-minute race, you made a mistake going into the first corner of a 50-minute race. The mental fortitude it takes to recalibrate, re-engage after that, and then fight your way back to a win, man, that really takes mental toughness. And you certainly showed that today. Well done, man.
Thank you very much. It's a question of after that first lap, if something like that happens, shout at yourself in your head and just carry on. Tell yourself to calm down.
I think a lot of the other drivers can learn from that. Thanks for joining us here, Etienne Kleb. There's your winner, folks. First place, man, Etienne Kleb, in a car that we've always said is a good one, the Aston Martin. What is also good? Our sponsors, AMD, Corsair, and Elgato. And we're going to be back after these notes from our sponsors.
Peace.